Bonjour à tous, je vous propose...
Good morning to you all. So if we could start this conference on behalf of Goodyear France, thank you very much for attending. We're going to start because we have a lot to cover this morning. So the theme is Tire Solutions for Better Energy Efficiency. And the energy transition is the high point of this trade fair, SOLUTRANS 2021, all week. So I'd now like to hand the floor to Grégory Briche, who is Director for the Industrial Sector of Goodyear France. Now, why have you chosen this topic on the energy transition and how Tyres can contribute to that? Thank you, Hervé, and good morning to you all. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. Well, as you know, SOLUTRANS is a very important hauliers trade fair, and we decided to have this roundtable because today Europe is working on the new environmental norms, as you know, and has set very ambitious objectives to reduce our carbon footprint. We want to be the top region for carbon neutral. We want to be first in line, so we need to reduce that by 15% by 2025, but by 30% by 2050. So it's very ambitious, I think you'll agree. And what are the consequences for our clients, our transportation clients, our hauliers? Well, the first consequence is that they will have to invest in solutions that they will help them to manage that solution. But they need to manage the TCO as well. So the equation is actually quite a tricky one, and they really need help. The idea of this meeting this morning was to bring together experts in their different fields so that they could share their experience, share proposals, share solutions that are already available. So that's what we're going to do. Thank you. So we are going to talk about tire solutions for better energy efficiency, and we've got DAF, the manufacturer, automotive manufacturer, to talk about their heavy goods vehicles and how they contribute. But we've got representatives from transport companies. We've got Bert and you. We've got important actors as well. We've got Goodyear and ZF for the last part of this morning. So let's start this morning for the first part with the new Goodyear tires and the energy transition. If you could come and join me, please. So we have Émilie Jacquignon, who's in charge of tires for Bert and you. We've got François Roncin for DAF France Trucks. And then we have Eric Muller from Goodyear Europe. Eric, sorry, François. Now, you are a manufacturer, so well done for the new range of Goodyear. DAF was awarded Truck of the Year last night at the gala dinner. So this new range for DAF, new vehicles, a few months old now. Tell us about those. Yeah, good morning. So for us, we are presenting for the first time in France the whole range of NGD, new generation DAF, which won an award, Truck of the Year last night, and innovation for the hydrogen version. Tell us about your collaboration with the automotive suppliers as well. When you're in your research phase, how does that work, that partnership? Well, we work with Goodyear, and we've been working with them for years. Goodyear is our supplier, our main supplier, and has been for a while. And yeah, the work between the manufacturer and the automotive supplier. Yeah, well, for the manufacturer, we have to supply a finished vehicle, but we don't make all of those components. We make most of them, and a lot of them are important, but we don't make them. So they are co-developed with partners, and that's very important. We were talking about CO2 emissions. That's very important for the research. So Tyres are a very important component of the energy transition. Is that right to say? Yes, and our new range represents a 10% gain in fuel, and thanks to the tyres as well. So the EU strategy is minus 15% by 2025, and we already have managed to reduce that by 10%. Sorry, that's without taking into account the new tyres. So that extra mile, if we can call it that, will also happen thanks to new tyres. 10%, so that's for the whole thing. Yes, that's the whole vehicle in relation to our old generation. And so it's 10% less CO2. Eric Muller, here we're at SOLUTRANS, and it's all about innovation. We don't know all about those innovations. What are the innovations that help you reach those objectives set by Brussels? So tell us about the energy transition. Good morning to you all. If you're right, Hervé and François are absolutely right. We're all in this together, in this efficient model that needs to become more sustainable, where DAF, of course, has really made a big step forward as a manufacturer on its vehicles, but we also have to offer tyres that are in line with the criteria and respond to their cost management systems. And we try and do that with products that are constantly being renewed. And at the moment, we have the full max endurance range, which is our latest model. Okay, let's talk about that. It's a concrete case. The new range, this new tyre. How can it contribute to the energy transition? Tell us about that. Well, the tyre that we are releasing now, if François says 10% for vehicle efficiency, you can increase that efficiency, energy efficiency, by about 2% by using this new generation of tyres in relation to the former generation, K-Max, that we are still selling, and that's what most people have. But we're moving towards integrating CO2 into the equation of tyres and the cost of tyres. That's very important. Great, we'll see that in pictures. Okay, full max endurance.
Reducing our industry's carbon footprint. But the reality is that trucks don't just use motorways. To deliver to warehouses, towns, ports and supermarkets, they also use state and secondary roads with more frequent stops, more bends in the road, and sometimes steeper gradients. These routes are more demanding on tyres. You need tyres that give you the traction, durability and mileage to handle those conditions. Introducing the Fuel Max Endurance from Goodyear. The Fuel Max Endurance range enables you to drive more fuel efficiently on more routes, giving you more ways to reduce your environmental impact and show your customers that you take sustainability as seriously as they do. Fuel Max Endurance. More sustainability, more routes.
Eric, can you tell us a little bit about the technical spec of the design of this tyre, how it contributes to that energy transition? Well, we've worked mainly on the rubber of the tread so that we can optimize our base. So that's the Fuel Max IN2, to have a tyre that allows you to be more resistant to and more multitask for what our users need. And at the same time, tying in with the label B tyres, which is very important to be able to access the specifications for our vehicle users that need to move these CO2 levels down. Thank you. Well, we're talking about what's new in DAF. So, François, today when we design a truck, which is what you've just done, tyres, is that an important part of that design? Absolutely. The new range is based on three main pillars: security, comfort, and energy efficiency. So it's an equal split. So tires are the only thing that is between the truck and the road. And so that brings together all of that: security, comfort, and energy efficiency. It's all concentrated in the tire, actually. That's why those parameters are very important. The vector figures for the European Union, they're very, very important. Émilie Jacquignon, you're in charge of tires. That's rare to have a female director. You work for Bert and you. Tell us about your company. Good morning. We have 1,600 salaried workers. We are split throughout 170 sites in France, 360,000 square meters of storage. Okay, so we were talking about the energy transition. And for you, you're familiar with that, aren't you? Because you've had several projects running for the last few years, specifically as far as tires go. So you're already contributing to that energy transition. Yep, we've been working on it for a while now. We've run several tests with Goodyear on Full Max Generation 2. We've also carried out other tests to go even further in saving fuel, whilst at the same time keeping that longevity for mileage to, make the tire longer lasting. What about tires within a transport company or hauliers? Have you had to change your mindset or change the driver's mindset? Do they look after their tires better now? Now that are they aware of this energy transition? Some, yes. Some are very aware and focus on their security, environmental security, are careful about it. Okay, well, let's talk very concretely on how tires can help you reach those CO2 objectives set by Brussels. Well, to bring down our fuel consumption, that's a first thing, whilst at the same time keeping a long mileage for the tire, low resistance, etc. Okay, Eric, what are the benefits for a company like yours of new tire ranges? Well, we have a figure and a potential of 2%, I think, to adjust the cost price using a tire from the fuel consumption that drops when you use these tires. But you need to keep that equation in mind and make sure that that balance is always the right one to give you the best results, the best cost positioning for the fleet that uses that your vehicles are using and your tires. And we are looking at an energy transition which is going to carry us towards things that will help us look at tire pressure as well, so that we can fix the tires, which will be the next step that the EU will be asking us to do, to refit tires, use less raw material and use our tires longer and our wheels longer. Emily, as far as cost goes, a transport company, does that take into account the cost of tires today? Well, we do, of course. It's very important, and we look very carefully at the tire cost. And we try and use it for as long as possible and refit it. That's what we try and look at from fitting the tire right to the end of its life cycle. Yes, cost is very important to us. Thank you. Let's move on to the second part. And if I could ask our next speakers to come and join us on stage. We have Richard Quinton, who's in charge of the fleet for Séché Transport, and Christophe Kuss, in charge of marketing for Goodyear Europe. Richard, good morning. So, we'll see what's going on in transportation companies, but why don't you tell us about Séché Transport?
So just in a few words, ours is a transport group, as you said. We have SAS status, and we've signed a CO2 charter. It's a charter that we've signed in conjunction with the French ADEME. We have 69 staff in total. We organise 75,000 orders per week. 30% of the orders that we manage managed by Séché Transport. The others we subcontract. So we have three main business activities. First of all, we have containers, moving vehicles and trucks out on the road. We're here to talk about tyres, of course. Has there been a switch in terms of the corporate culture in your company regarding tyres and how you manage the tyres? If we're totally honest, a few years ago, everything that revolved around the tyres, for example, well, it was almost something that nobody took any notice of. Has that changed? Yes, absolutely. Tyres nowadays represent quite a lot of money. It's a big budget for us as a company. So it's very important for us to ensure that we use a lot of retread tyres. We use as many retreaded tyres as we can. And as a result, further down the line, we focus on using the tyres for as long as possible. What's interesting is your model is based on the fact that you have tyres that are equipped with TPMSs. Can you tell us what these TPMSs are? It's basically a system that was presented to us by Goodyear back in 2014. And at the time, we had a lot of tyres that would burst, that would get punctured due to our type of business activity. And so when this system was shown to us, all we could see was the positive elements, the advantages that it would hold for us. So what about the results? For you, tangibly speaking today, you've been using these systems for quite some time. Concretely speaking, as a haulage firm, what are the results like? Well, I would argue that in terms of the environment, it's all very positive because we know full well that those tyres that aren't blown up sufficiently, well, we use 1% more in terms of energy consumption. And we know that all of our fleet has tyres at the right pressure level. Every morning we receive the report on the pressure level of our tyres, and we know that 100% of our tyres are blown up to the level they need to be blown up. And so we're not going to have issues in terms of tyres bursting in the past. What about the life cycle? Does it have an impact? Of course it does, because if you've got a tyre that bursts, obviously it's a tyre that's not going to be able to travel as many kilometres. You've also got punctures. It's important to note that if you drive with a tyre that hasn't been blown up sufficiently, it's not necessarily going to be repairable once it goes back to the workshop. So once again, you can use the tyres for longer. And also for running the vehicle, for your running costs, it makes everything more reasonable. Yes, definitely. We know that when you have to intervene, when you've got a breakdown vehicle that has to go out, it can take 2 or 3 hours to repair the tyre. Just to give you a few figures, in 2015, before TPMS, we had 3 to 4 tyres that burst each month. And this year, we've only had the 9th one. So it's always one too many, but we've got less than 1 tyre a month that bursts. So we've divided by 4 the results. So the results are very positive in terms of the TCO as well. Yes, definitely. Because you've got the tyres on the one hand that we're able to keep on the road for longer, but there's also another aspect. You've got all of the equipment, overall the rolling stock. Sometimes we get temperature warnings, for example, and as a result, we've been able to save about 10 hubs, tyre hubs, and it would have been much worse if ever the tyres had caught fire. How do the drivers react in relation to the tyres and in relation to the TPMS? Is there any kind of training or support that you provide to the drivers? Well, all the drivers know currently that our trailers are equipped with these TPMS systems. Initially speaking, it was quite funny because we used to call the driver and say, oh, your rear right tyre is getting damaged, and often the driver would call us back and say, no, I've kicked the tyre's fine. Whereas our results were so precise that we were able to detect a very tiny puncture or a big puncture, and a very tiny puncture sometimes meant that the driver was able to come back to the base and we could repair the problem before it got worse. You don't necessarily have to perform the repair while the driver's out on the road. Christophe Kuss, you're in charge of marketing for marketing solutions for Goodyear. Now, TPMS is one of the solutions that you focus on. Are there other solutions that you offer, solutions that enable you to invest in this energy transition? Yes, of course. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, it's very true. In our portfolio of solutions, it's very, very broad. It's very broad because we feel we have the obligation to meet all of the needs that the haulage companies have, that they can vary from one company to the other. Also, it depends on the way in which the haulage company is structured. For example, we've got some solutions that are for retreading. That's a very well-known type of activity. This is particularly relevant today, the aim being, of course, to reduce the energy footprint, as we said, of the tyres. We also have other solutions that we call fleet online solutions. These are solutions that enable us to interconnect the service providers, the haulage firms, as Goodyear, and it means that the haulage firms can manage their tyre business very, very specifically, and they can optimize things from a financial and technical perspective. Next, we have additional solutions, new generation or the latest generation solutions based on new technologies, based on telematics that you talked about, Mr. Canton, and thank you for that. And these all mean that we're able to use predictive technologies that in turn enable companies, haulage firms, exactly as you said, to intervene before the accident happens. And as a result, it means that there are many, many benefits in terms of the durability of the tyres and also in terms of the costs, in particular in terms of the fact that you reduce the fuel consumption as well, and we reduce our CO2 footprint. There you are. The slide is now on the screen. As you can see, we've talked about the TPMS, Goodyear's TPMS. We've got other solutions that we've just launched, like the Goodyear Drive Point that you can see behind me. This is a system based on the TPMS technology as well. And it's a way of reading the temperature once the vehicle joins the fleet. Some drivers, for example, might ask for an embedded TPMS that is adapted to follow up on the road, but other haulage firms prefer us to monitor the fleet. We've also got the drive over reader. We have a video on this. Once the vehicle is driving, the system will measure the pressure and also the thickness of the rubber that remains on the tyre. And in terms of preventive maintenance for the tyres, this is all very useful. It guarantees the durability of the tyres and it reduces CO2 emissions because it reduces the amount of fuel that we use. They're all systems that are extremely high performing and that provide massive added value. But I think our clients are better at talking about this than us, so we have a video. Just a few words. We're at SOLUTRANS at the trade fair, so we're talking a great deal about innovation. In terms of tyre solutions, are there still loads of innovations? Yes, absolutely. That's what we spend our life doing. The DNA of a company such as ours is innovation with a capital I. For the last 123 years, we've been innovating at Goodyear. We're going to keep doing so, not just on tyres. Of course, we look for many more global solutions. In a few minutes on the screen, you'll also see a new solution that we've developed. Our engineers basically get up in the morning to be inventive, and you adapt the solutions as well based on what the haulage firms do. Absolutely. We have to listen to our clients. We're close and qualified in terms of the way that we work with our clients. We have technical sales teams that work hand in hand with you every day. And well and truly, we take into account all the feedback that the haulage firms say that they have in terms of needs, and that enables us to present our solutions. Richard, just a few words maybe. You've been working in the transport sector for a number of years. Do you manage the fleets differently today or not when it comes to the tyres? And if you manage them differently, is it thanks to the solutions that change the way in transport can be managed on a day-to-day basis? Well, the fleets today, let me just stress that within the group, we have a vocation. Our specific vocation, or priority rather, is to protect our environment above all. If I can tell you a short story, I joined the company in 1995. I joined Séché Transport then, and my boss, Joël Séché, talked to me about sustainable development way back in 1995. At the time, I didn't really know what it meant. And so he was a bit of a front runner. Yes, definitely. But it's true that today we're particularly careful about the environment. We only have Euro 6s in terms of the tractors. The two latest rigids are going to be replaced by gas rigids. And so with TPMS, given the fact that we're able to reduce our energy consumption, it's a great way of showing that we show respect for the environment, and it's all very beneficial. So we said it was important to have feedback from the haulage firms to know what's happening out in the field on the vehicles that are equipped with specific tyres, with specific systems. As we said, we're now going to have another look at a quick video that concerns the drive-over reader, and this time this is from Goodyear, the haulage firm. So I'll let you watch the film. We discovered it during a trade fair. Basically, what you have is a solution on the screen that shows you the depth of the tyres. You can also see the tyre pressure and also the weight on the axles. We receive validation from the system saying that the vehicle can leave the car park. It has permission to leave. Now, in terms of vehicle maintenance, the advantage is we do a lot less maintenance on the road. We're able to do it while the vehicle is parked at the depot, and it means because we use fewer tyres, we send out more CO2 into the atmosphere. So it's all very positive for the clients and for us, and of course for the drivers. So there you have it. In just a few words, Christophe, when you talk about solutions, necessarily you need to provide advice, training to the users, to the haulage firms. Yes, of course. All of these solutions we're talking about are solutions that only function. They're only possible if the data that they're able to collect and also the information that is provided by the system is fed back to and used by the drivers, etc. And if action is taken from a technical perspective, otherwise there's no point. So well and truly our teams work very hard on that day in, day out with our clients. We provide fully fledged explanations on how the system functions. We explain exactly what to do based on the information. Because what I forgot to say is that the system sends information onto modern mobile apps or onto web apps, warnings, alerts for the clients. And these reports, where we try and make sure that they're as simple and straightforward as possible to use and as precise as possible, simply so that the clients can take action. And I hope you agree with my point of view, Mr. Canton, but when the system is used as it should be used, when the users fully understand the actions, you benefit from the solutions. So day to day, we provide support to haulage firms on this. Now, Mr. Canton, the return on investment in relation to the global cost, what can you say? Do you really achieve good results? Yes, of course we do. At the current time, for example, we're able to stick to our tyres budget for several years. We've stuck to our tyre budgets despite the raw material increases. Why? Because we solved the problem before they happen. As I said, we've divided by 4 the number of tyres that we have to do the retreading on. So we make massive savings, but also in terms of the safety of the drivers, we've improved the situation, because when you've got a driver stopped on the side of a motorway, well, a pedestrian will continue to be alive for 20 minutes on average. So it's very important to reduce the risks from that perspective. Of course, there are risks as well for the users when you've got a tyre that bursts on the motorway, when you've got bits of tyres scattered around the road. Obviously, it can cause a lot of damage. So it's thanks to all of this that it's basically beneficial for everybody. I couldn't do without this. If you were to take away this solution, I would be very unhappy. Christophe, just a few words. We've seen that the energy transition is increasingly important. Lots of work is being done, very ambitious in terms of what Brussels is saying to reduce our CO2 emissions. Are you under pressure? Do you feel under pressure? Well, yes, we do feel under pressure, but the same is true for the entire profession. But I'd say it's healthy pressure because, as you said earlier, what we're looking to do is look after the planet, to preserve our precious planet. We have to make it into something positive, and if we all work together, it's going to turn out to be a godsend. We've seen with the manufacturers and the haulage firms and with all of the companies other than Goodyear that it is possible to pool our resources and our skills, the aim being, of course, to move forwards together so that we can achieve this target. So we need to capitalise on the possibilities that we have. It's a great opportunity to work differently and to work in a totally new manner, the aim being, of course, to provide sustainable solutions for all the profession. Of course, it does mean that you have to have a close and qualified relationship with your clients, the haulage firms, and you all enter into partnerships. We're now going to talk about this. Thank you for being here, and I'd now like to ask Gregory Rich to come back on stage, and also Susanna, can you come and join us? Susanna Perrier from ZF. Now, Gregory, We're going to talk about this in just a few moments. We'll talk about the partnership. But first of all, Susanna, can you talk to us about ZF? Tell me about your business here at SOLUTRANS. Hello, everybody. So just a few words about ZF. Currently, ZF is a company, it's a global company, a global technology company that is over 100 years old. There are 150,000 staff in the company. And we started out with gearboxes a long, long time ago. And at ZF today, we work first and foremost on what we call the mobility of the new generation of gearboxes. We focus on autonomous vehicles and also on electrification. So we made an acquisition. WAPCO was purchased by ZF. That was back in 2020. WAPCO originally made gearboxes as well. But also we worked a great deal with haulage firms on connectivity.
And it's a company that's well known for its Transects transport system. It's a fleet management system tested by WAPCO in 2014, and we became ZF in 2020. So today, connectivity and what we're going to say about partnerships with Goodyear is really at the heart of what ZF does. ZF is not just about heavy goods vehicles, it's also light utility vehicles, industrial vehicles, anything that's to do with transport buses, and of course on HEVs, because WAPCO Transects is really our core heritage. And we want to keep it that way. Just quickly, we talked about energy just now. One of the innovations that we are presenting today is the electronic car. It's very important. It's something that's active in 30 countries. Sorry, the letter for electric cars. It's a paperless system, and we've integrated that with our main actors for electronic cars. So you can already share that, and we can share that between the sender, the haulier, and the final customer. Gregory, we've talked about partnerships between two industrial leaders, between Goodyear and ZF, in this field. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean it's specific know-how and skills that are being pulled? Yeah. Actually, we just, looked at things very simply. Often, a simple approach is the best one. Our respective teams work together and look at each other on a day-to-day basis, discuss things in the fleets, know what's going on. And so we're talking about the same issues, really. Our users also have the same issues. And the idea was to pull the tools that we already had in both companies, into the same system and to increase their power through doing that. And it also, what you need to understand is that on the market there are a lot of proposals out there. There's a lot on offer. So just imagine you're a director of a company. How do you sift through all of that and select the best solution that's going to be the right one for you to reduce your costs? And there are two companies now here who are major actors in the field of mobility, so that's very reassuring. And the fact that they're pooling and joining together means that we can also help directors, company directors, make their decisions more easily. But we carried out a poll at Goodyear, and we did that in this summer, a questionnaire to 1,000 transport companies, and we asked them whether they were really involved in the energy transition and reducing their CO2 emissions. And they said, yes, they would like to be implicated and do what needs to be done. But you have to stay with your feet on the ground. You've got to be realistic. It mustn't deter you from your regular business. And it's still complicated and costly. That's what they said. So we're here to simplify and to support those directors get there. You've talked about complementarity and uniting your forces. Absolutely. And on the market today, when you go and see hauliers, you can see that there is a real problem for the directors or fleet managers to try and benefit and from all of the energy transition technology. There's a lot of solutions out there, a lot on offer, sometimes the same offers in a different package, and you need to make important choices. There's no kind of integration. They're not connected together. So you always see the company directors saying, yeah, I need to set up, 3 boxes, telematic boxes, one for the tires, one for the GM lock, one for other things. So I think that partnerships and collaboration, such as we're doing with Goodyear, is really added value for hauliers because Transects ZF is the leader in fleet management and EBS maintenance data. Goodyear is leader for tires. So anything to do with tires. So let's pull that into one single technology with the same control box, and therefore the haulier doesn't have to make that choice. They can just get the best of everything in our product. Okay, let's get down to the details. The partnership, it's not just words on paper. You are partnering in technology as well, both on the side of Goodyear and ZF. Absolutely. I think the best way of proving that, and please take a look at our stand outside in number 3. It's just behind the ZF stand. So go and take a look. You'll see in the tractor and the trailer with these solutions. So what's the concept? Well, for a haulier, it's about investing in one single system, one single technology, which will bring together the different tools that they need to use. It's also moving towards a digital transition. And that's also a tool that sets you one step ahead of your rivals for hauliers. So it's about converging data flows coming from different sources to one single system and to common interfaces. Maybe we can take a look at a picture of that. At the top here, you've got the source, so Tpms, Goodyear Tpms on the one hand, which records the pressure and the temperature. You've got the ABS for the trailer, which also collects data. And all of that data converges to one single TCU control box. It's the Transects trailer pulse. We're using the Transects technology. This data box sends that information to a Goodyear server, which has an algorithm developed by the Goodyear engineers, and that algorithm anticipates the trends for pressure and temperature. And then we send those warnings that Mr. Canton mentioned onto interfaces. Each company has its own interface. I am talking about the Goodyear one, but Susanna can talk about the Transects interface. So for us, it's a web-based interface on a PC or a mobile one on your smartphone or tablet. Okay, Susanna, it's complementary then. Is that right? Yes, absolutely. So you can see the control box here. It's just one single control box. You don't have to set up 2 control boxes. And then it depends on the use you make of it. So we want people to have a choice. Do you want to have your workshop director have access to the maintenance data for EBS, or your fleet manager who has access to different data for all of the vehicles or the trailers in real time, of course? That's why we set up this partnership. Each haulier has very specific needs, and they're different, and you get the choice according to the kinds of teams that you have on the kind of tool or interface you need to use. But it's always the same control box or data box that sends and collects the information. Gregory, you are dealing with company directors who have to, manage their costs, make sure the results are good results. So what complementarity are you offering for them? Well, I've got 3 keywords. The first is being flexible, flexibility, because we really have solution packs today that are tailored to each configuration. You know, it's not just a single offer, it's really tailored to the fleet configuration. That's useful. Second keyword is simplification. I think you've understood by now that we are using one single system for different data flows. And that gives you information on the tires, but also on the vehicle and its load. So we're really at the heart and the core of the haulier's activity here. And the third word is security, because you can anticipate any maintenance, avoid, problems, defects, having to fix a truck and the time that takes. And the vehicle is always working at an optimal level, fuel-wise as well. And so that protects the environment, and that's absolutely the aim of this. And it saves you time as well? Yes. On a day-to-day basis for the drivers and the company? Yeah, and it's the complementarity you mentioned. We look at the haulier and we look at different points for them. We are a supplier of fleet management systems. We just want to help the haulier be more efficient in its operations. We know that margins are not very high, and we really want to help them be more streamlined, more efficient, to get that data in real time, to make the right decisions with the right data. But there's also, of course, legislation. Now, in 2022, we know that we will have to set up Tpms for hauliers, and we're going to help them conform to that legislation throughout Europe. It also means that hauliers can have deeper analysis of the data with all of these skills brought together. Yeah, absolutely. And with all of the technology that we have today in Europe, one truck, one trailer out of every 4 is traveling empty because hauliers don't get the right real-time information to make the right decisions about the efficiency of the different routes carried out. And so this information, they can get the exact information from us, from this system, and better manage their fleet. Okay, so it's a lot of data being channeled up, and solutions that simplify the analysis, just make it all easier to analyze. Is that right? Yeah, there are 3 kinds of use and applications, of course, for the driver. There are dashboard applications, web portal for the management, fleet manager, for the workshop. And there's also integration functions. If the haulier already has its own tools, its own interfaces, we send all of this data into their tools, into their ERP or other tools to really help them just stick to what they are familiar with. So this partnership means that you work even more closely with the hauliers? Yeah, that's what we want. ZF and WAPCO are used to working with manufacturers. And the aim is to onboard a lot more technology for fleets directly. We have a partnership for trailers with TIP, and via this, we offer a lot of services for the hauliers. Thank you very much. I think we could talk for a long time, but I'd now like to hand the floor to... well, are there any questions first? We have time for a couple of questions. Grégory, would you like to conclude? Well, as you said, Hervé, it's not the end of the topic. We could discuss this for years. I think it will certainly be a topic of discussion for years. It's just the beginning of a long pathway. The main concept that we need to take home is convergence, managing data and using that data correctly to make sure it makes us more competitive, to make hauliers more competitive, and protecting at the same time the environment. Thank you very much to everyone for having taken part and been here. Thank you. And just another piece of information, if you want to look at these solutions, see what they look like, take a look at the ZF Goodyear stand outside. I think it's 3005. Thank you very much.